learn English with the news lesson. We'll read an article together discussing a scientific study that suggests horses can smell fear. As we read the article, you'll expand your vocabulary, learn advanced grammar, and improve your pronunciation. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Our headline, horses can smell fear in humans, researchers say. Let's take a look at how this sentence started. Notice we're using the noun horses in the plural because when you have a plural noun, it means all horses. It's talking about the general category. Now, grammatically, if you use a singular noun and it's a regular, countable singular noun, you must use an article. Let's review these examples. Horses are beautiful. This uses the plural noun because, like I said, when you have the plural noun, it means all. You're including the whole category. So it's not a specific horse, it's just in general. Horses are beautiful. Now, when you have the plural noun, you don't need an article. So in this example, we have a singular noun. To make it grammatically correct, you can say the horse, a specific one, the one in this photo, the horse is beautiful. This horse, my horse, her horse. So you could use a possessive pronoun that replaces an article, is beautiful. You could say a horse is beautiful. Grammatically, that's correct, but it might sound a little confusing because a means any. A horse is beautiful. Why are you talking about one horse, but that's any horse, not a specific one or the general category? So grammatically correct, but it sounds a little unnatural without more context to explain why you used the article a instead of the or just the general category. Now, horse is beautiful. I hear this from my advanced students all the time, but it's incorrect because horse is a singular countable noun. You need an article, a possessive, or you need to make it plural. Don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's learn how horses can smell fear in humans. Horses can smell fear, or at least whether you have scared yourself witless watching a horror movie. If you scare yourself witless, this isn't the most common expression. It simply means you've completely scared yourself to a point of perhaps not being able to function because you are so scared. You're just speechless. So that would be scared yourself witless. Whether you have scared yourself witless watching a horror movie. So that's an example when you are just so overcome with fear. Maybe you hear a noise in your kitchen and you can't even move because you're paralyzed by that fear. That would be scared yourself witless. But you can absolutely just say you've completely scared yourself, totally scared yourself, or you are petrified, which means you are extremely scared. According to researchers who say the effect has consequences for riders, trainers, and others who work with the animals. So remember, the animals, we're talking about horses specifically. Now, riders, these are the people who ride horses. So this is the noun, rider. I'm a rider. I ride horses. So the verb is to ride. You can ride a horse, ride horses, or you can say, I'm a rider. So it's describing yourself, just like you would say, I'm a teacher. But in this case, I'm a rider. Now, trainer, of course, people who train horses, and then others who work with the animals. And notice here with according, you need the preposition to. So when you're learning vocabulary, learn the sentence structure because this, when you learn what this means and you want to use it to sound more advanced rather than just saying say, like here we have researchers say, but when you use according, you must use the preposition to, according to researchers.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
In a series of tests, horses that smelled body odor from people watching scary films startled more easily. Okay, so odor, this is the smell that comes from your body. So it can come from something else as well. You might say, what's that odor? So if you're in your house and you walk in, you're like, what's that odor? That's just an alternative to saying, what's that smell? And maybe there's some garbage or something that doesn't smell pleasant. Now, let's look at this. People watching scary films startled more easily. So startle is when you go like this. So maybe you're washing the dishes and then your husband, your roommate simply says, hey, Jennifer, but you go like this because it startled you. It scared you because you were not expecting it. So instead of saying, you scared me, you can say that. You can also say, you startled me, which simply means you scared me because I wasn't expecting to hear a voice as I'm washing the dishes. So some people startle very easily. Some people don't startle very easily. So that's the verb to startle. In the definition of startle, I'm including to quickly react physically or verbally, because when you're startled, you always do something like physically would be, you go like this, and then verbally is that, you could just go, or you can make a noise as well. So that's why I include physically, verbally, often both. Okay, so let's review this again. Horses that smelled body odor from people watching scary films startled more easily. So it's the horse startling. It's not the people. It's the horse. Okay? So how would a horse startle? It would probably raise its body, go backwards. It would make a noise as well. The same reaction that humans make. So it's the horse startled more easily. The horse had higher heart rates. So your heart rate is the rhythm and the pace of your heart. So higher is your heart beating faster, and approach their handlers less often. Okay, a handler is someone who is the owner and in control of the horse. So if you tell your horse to go this way, you're the horse's handler. It's just another way of saying both owner or trainer. Now, we don't use that language with our pets. So with your dog, you wouldn't say, I'm the handler. You would just say, I'm the owner. You own a pet. But with horses specifically, they use this word handler. They're handlers less often than when the odor came from people watching more joyful scenes. Okay, so this is the test that made them conclude that horses can smell fear. Before the experiments, volunteers watched film scenes while wearing cotton pads in their armpits. Okay, this is your armpit right here. This is your armpit. So a cotton pad, just imagine it's a Kleenex. It's like a Kleenex. Women, we use them to take the makeup off our face. You can use it to clean a cut on yourself or your child. You would put some some peroxide or something on the cotton pad and wipe the cut. Okay, so just imagine it's like Kleenex toilet paper, and then you put it in your armpit, right? Because that's where a lot of our body odor comes from, is our armpit. So armpit. So they have cotton pads. Now, if you volunteer, it means that you're not required to do this. So this was not an obligation. They could say no. So volunteers, these are people who volunteer. Now, in this case, the verb is the same. Let's review these two sentences. I volunteer at a horse rescue center, to keep with the theme of our article. So the subject is I and the verb is in the present simple because it's a routine action. You could say yesterday I volunteered, for example. So you can change your verb. Now with the S as a verb, it would be she or he. She volunteers. He volunteers. That would be the present simple with he or she. Now, you could also say I'm a volunteer at a horse rescue center. Because remember, articles are grammatically required with a singular countable noun. So if I said I'm volunteer at a horse rescue center, this is grammatically incorrect. On a language exam, this would be wrong. In spoken English, if you say this to a native speaker, it sounds weird because it's not I'm volunteer. I'm a volunteer. The article is required. So I'm a volunteer. Now here, volunteers, remember when you have the plural noun, you are not required to use an article. So this is a noun, but it means volunteers in general. Because remember when you have the plural, it means all. It's the general category. So all volunteers. Volunteers watched film scenes. Also notice the pronunciation of both the noun form and the verb form. The syllable stress is on the final syllable, which is not a regular syllable stress pattern in English. Volunteer, volunteer, ear. So it's pronounced exactly the same as ear, ear, volunteer. So that's the stress syllable. Let's continue. The participants saw clips from the horror movie Sinister. So this is the name of a horror movie. Remember, they had cotton pads in their armpits while they watched these clips from the horror movie Sinister and more joyful scenes from the light-hearted film Singin' in the Rain. So light-hearted, this is an adjective that describes a film. So you can imagine the meaning of it. A film that's light-hearted, it is joyful, it doesn't cause any fear or suspense or drama in you. So you can think of it as just pleasant to watch, easy to watch, or joyful. Let's keep reading. To see how horses responded to fearful and joyful odors, the scientists stapled the cotton swabs to the animal's muzzle. Okay, so remember, we have the cotton swabs from the volunteers, the human volunteers' armpits. They watched a scary movie, a horror movie, and then they watched a lighthearted movie, a pleasant movie. And then they stapled, so using a stapler, they stapled the cotton swabs to the muzzle. So a muzzle is the material that goes over the animal's nose and mouth. Dogs sometimes wear them depending on the dog or where the dog is. So horses also can wear them. And of course, the muzzle is very close to the horse's nose. So if the cotton swabs are stapled to the muzzle, the horse would be forced to smell the cotton swabs. And here, they gave more information. Positioning them, the cotton swabs. So if you position something, it's just where you place it to make sure it's in the correct place. So I always position my microphone before I record. I position my camera as well to make sure I am in the correct position. So in that case, it is in the correct place. So here, positioning is the verb form. So just making adjustments to something. Positioning them, the cotton swabs, directly over the horse's nostrils. So this is my nose, and these two are my nostrils. So that's where they didn't put it here. They didn't position the cotton swabs here because you smell with your nostrils. So they positioned it so it would be right there. So the horse smells it the most. Let's keep reading. Tests then assessed how frequently the horses approached and touched their handler. Remember, handler is just the owner or the trainer. And how they reacted when an umbrella suddenly popped open in front of them as they munched on a bucket of food. What is this an example of? Imagine you are washing the dishes or you're eating and you hear a sound. What will you do? What is that verb? Startle. And I say, oh, you startled me. You startled me. Or that noise startled me. Or the umbrella startled me. Caused me to move and to make a sound. So this is an example of how easily the horses startle, because this is how you would startle an animal. It's eating, and then if an umbrella pops open, which means opens suddenly. So if it's raining, you open your umbrella, right? So if it pops open, it just means it suddenly opens, and it opens completely, and it makes a noise. And you can probably also see it in the corner of your eye. The corner of your eye means right now my attention is here, but if there was a noise over here, I might see like a flash of color or a flash of an object in the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision. Now let's review the verb munch. Do you know what this means? Well, you may have heard the word munchies, which is a noun. Munchies is a general term, a slang informal term to describe snack food. So you might say, let's get some munchies for the movie. We need some munchies. What kind of munchies do you like? So munchies would be things like popcorn, chips, candy, pretzels. Now, munchies is the noun form because the verb is to munch, which means to eat casually, So you munch on popcorn during a movie. You don't eat the full bowl very quickly or rapidly like you might eat a dinner. You eat a few pieces, then you watch the movie, then you eat some more, then you stop for a bit, then you eat some more. So it's a more relaxed and casual way of eating compared to when you eat your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So they're using it here specifically to let you know the horses were casually eating. So they were in a relaxed state. They were not in a startled state already. So they were relaxed, doing something casual, and then the umbrella popped open, suddenly opened. So how easily did they startle? So using munchies as a noun, remember this is more casual, informal. The standard term is snacks. But you might say, let's get some munchies for the train. Let's get some snacks for the train. Let's keep going. The scientists described how horses were more startled, but the horse would be making that noise and the reaction, the physical reaction. Had higher peak heart rates, their hearts were beating faster than normal, and made less contact with their handlers. So they didn't approach their handlers. They didn't want affection or attention. When exposed to sweat, remember the cotton pad in your armpit, in the volunteers' armpits, sweat from the scared people. So the cotton pads from the people watching the horror movie. And this is the reaction in the horses, remember, general category, in the horses when they smelled the cotton pad. If the findings hold up in future studies. Okay, so if something holds up, it means it is replicated. So they have another study with the exact same design, and they get the same result. So that means replicate. They can do it again and get the same result. Same study, same result. So replicate. So if the findings hold up in future studies. So if future studies have the same result, that means the findings hold up. They're proven true again and again. It would suggest that fear is contagious. So you may be familiar with this word, so contagious, but then you need your verb to be contagious. So contagious is the adjective, the verb is be, and this is what you would describe a virus such as COVID or another flu virus. You would say, oh, stay back, I'm contagious, which means I have germs, bacteria that can spread to you or others if you get too close to me. So no, don't come any closer. I'm contagious. I have a flu right now or a cold. So fear, imagine if I'm afraid and you are beside me and you're perfectly happy, you could become afraid simply because I am afraid. That would be fear is contagious. But this study wasn't about human to human. It was human to horse. Okay, so fear is contagious between humans and horses. The example I gave was with 2 humans, but that wasn't the study. It was between humans and horses. With volatile compounds in human sweat, acting as a warning signal that danger may lurk nearby. So lurk means that danger is nearby, but if something lurks, it's more in a dangerous way. So there's a danger nearby. If you hear the verb lurk, it sounds like danger is nearby. Danger may be nearby, but they're only using lurk because of danger. Danger may lurk nearby. So my interpretation of this is that there is some sort of compound. So if you put that cotton swab under a microscope, you could see compounds. A scientist would be able to identify these. I'm not a scientist. I don't know any names of these compounds in human sweat. But they're suggesting that horses can identify these compounds, and the compounds tell them that there is a danger because the compound is a fear compound. It was produced when humans were in a state of fear. So that fear is in the compound, in the sweat, and then horses understand that danger is nearby. That's my interpretation of this result, which is very fascinating. I personally would love to read more about this. What about you? But that is the end of the article, so we will leave it there. And if you want a part 2 and we can dive deeper into this topic, just put part 2 in the comments. And then if enough people are interested, I can make a part 2 on this topic. So what I'll do now is I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. Horses can smell fear in humans, researchers say. Horses can smell fear, or at least whether you have scared yourself witless watching a horror movie, according to researchers who say the effect has consequences for riders, trainers, and others who work with the animals. In a series of tests, Horses that smelled body odor from people watching scary films startled more easily, had higher heart rates, and approached their handlers less often than when the odor came from people watching more joyful scenes. Before the experiments, volunteers watched film scenes while wearing cotton pads in their armpits. The participants saw clips from the horror movie Sinister and more joyful scenes from the lighthearted film Singing in the Rain. To see how horses responded to fearful and joyful odors, the scientists stapled the cotton swabs to the animals' muzzles, positioning them directly over the horses' nostrils. Tests then assessed how frequently the horses approached and touched their handler and how they reacted when an umbrella suddenly popped open in front of them as they munched on a bucket of food. The scientists described how horses were more startled, had higher peak heart rates, and made less contact with their handlers when exposed to sweat from the scared people. If the findings hold up in future studies, it would suggest that fear is contagious between humans and horses, with volatile compounds in human sweat acting as a warning signal that danger may lurk nearby.
Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.